Okay, so we are on chapter 6, text 40. Before this, Krishna, Arjun spoke that, what happens to somebody who has not completed their devotional process, right? Almighty armed Krishna, does not such a man who's bewildered from the path of transcendence fall away from both spiritual and material success and perish like a riven cloud with no position in any sphere? Right? So Arjun is asking, if somebody is not able to reach perfection in this life, what happens to them? So in response, Krishna is saying, as Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, Parthanaiveha Namutra Vinasha Tasya Vidyate Nahi Kalyana Krit Kaschid Durgatim Tata Gachati. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O son of Pritha, a transcendentalist engaged in auspicious activities does not meet with destruction in this world or in the spiritual world. One who does good, my friend, is never overcome by evil. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, Sri Narad Muni instructs Vyasadeva as follows: Tyaktva swadharmam charanam bhujam harer bhajan apakvo tha patit tato yadi yatra kva vadhatram adbhut abhut amusyakim ko vartha apto bhajatam swa dharmataha. If someone gives up all the material prospects and takes complete shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there is no loss or degradation in any way. On the other hand, a non-devotee may fully engage in his occupational duties and yet not gain anything. For material prospects, there are many activities, both scriptural and customary. A transcendentalist is supposed to give up all material activities for the sake of spiritual advancement in life, Krishna consciousness. One may argue that by Krishna consciousness, one may attain the highest perfection if it is completed. But if one does not attain such a perfectional stage, then he loses both materially and spiritually. It is enjoined in the scriptures that one has to suffer the reactions for not executing prescribed duties. Therefore, one who fails to discharge transcendental activities properly becomes subjected to these reactions. The Bhagavatam assures that the unsuccessful transcendentalist that there need be no worries. Even though he may be subjected to the reactions for not perfectly executing prescribed duties, he's still not a loser, because auspicious Krishna consciousness is never forgotten, and one so engaged will continue to be so even if he is low-born in the next life. On the other hand, one who simply follows strictly the prescribed duties need not necessarily attain auspicious results if he is lacking in Krishna consciousness. Let's simplify this, understand what's happening here. Let's say you have a wonderful job and you're supposed to finish a task. You did your 100%, but you couldn't complete it. Chances are you will not get the credit for your hard work. The fact that you couldn't complete it is the end all be all, and you're a loser. You couldn't complete it. So I don't care about how hard you tried, but you didn't meet the deadline. You failed. On the spiritual side, that is not the case. The process is gifted. So if somebody is in the process of bhakti, of spirituality, and one is not perfect, right? Midlife, one gives up, like, no, this is not for me, moving on. There is no loss. That's not an encouragement to say that one should give up. But the process is merciful. Like in Christianity, they say God is all merciful and God is all loving and all powerful. And generally speaking, again, it's not against any other religion, just the Abrahamic faith is such where there's a judgment day, that at the time of death, or during judgment day, all the dead rise and there is judgment and God judges. You're going to hell forever, you're going to heaven forever. And my question to them generally is, how is God all merciful all loving, and all powerful, yet he's not forgiving those who somehow wasn't able to do their responsibilities perfectly. Why not give them another chance? Why eternally damned in hell? Why that concept of eternal damnation? Right. So in Vedic system, there is no eternal aspect of punishment as such. Right. So there's always given a second chance. So even if one goes to hellish regions, even if one takes birth in a lower species, one is given another chance to move up the ladder, come to human form of life, and one again has the opportunity to inquire into the absolute, find the answers, and if they're fortunate enough, they study the Bhagavad Gita and go back to Krishna after this birth. So the process is very merciful. And even if one doesn't complete it, one is, what we'll hear shortly, one is guaranteed a human birth. That's for sure. And in that human birth, one will continue from where they left off. So we'll read the next verse. Or any better Sanskrit reader, can you please read? I'm not seeing a lot of our regular readers. Can somebody read?
Prabhu, I will give it a go, although I'm not a better reader.
Please do.
Okay. So Veda is, can you just tell me the number?
641. Chapter 6, text 41.
Okay. Prapya punyakritam lokanushritava shashvitah samah शुचिनाः श्रीमताः गेहे योग भ्रष्टो vijayate. The unsuccessful yogi, after many years of enjoyment on the planets of the pious living entities, is born into a family of righteous people or into a family of rich aristocracy.
So would you kindly read the next one also?
Okay, sure. अथवा योगी नामे कुले भवति धीमताम एतिद् दुर्लभतरम लोके जन्म यदीदृशम. Or if unsuccessful after a long practice of yoga, he takes his birth in a family of transcendentalists who are surely great in wisdom. Certainly, such a birth is rare in this world.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. So that's the encouragement Krishna is giving. In fact, just to give you an understanding, in Christianity also, this aspect was there of rebirth and reincarnation and continuing forward. But during the Middle Ages, there was this king named King Constantine, who actually strategically had the bishops and all the Christian monks, categorically delete any mention of reincarnation, rebirth, in the fear that people might take that as encouragement and get lazy about their spiritual practices and not try to attain perfection in this life, which is unfortunate. But Christianity does, and many other religions of the world does talk about reincarnation, rebirth, and we have discussed this in great details in our law of karma webinar also, for those of you attended. But the point is, Krishna is giving encouragement that the unsuccessful yogi, one who is not successful, after many years of enjoyment on the planets of pious living, so basically because of the good activity you get to enjoy in the heavenly planets, Krishna is saying, right? Enjoy it. So what does the heavenly planet enjoyment look like? There is nice intoxicating beverages like Varuni and other things. There are nice, very beautiful looking women, they're called the heavenly damsels, Menaka, Urvashi, I don't know all the names, but there are many names. These are very beautiful looking women. Apparently these women are like, their beauty is mind-blowing. We don't know how beautiful they are, but a lot of enjoyment. And that's why people want to go to heaven, right? Because there's so much material enjoyment that cannot even be thought of in the earthly planet. So like they mentioned somewhere, I've heard that they have the ability to have sex for 6 months straight, right? That's the kind of sense gratification capacity that the demigods have in the higher realms. And so also in some of the lower realms, just like the heavenly realms are very opulent, some of the hellish realms are also very opulent. Some are very dangerous, but some of them are very opulent. But the point is, it's temporary. Why do we as devotees not aspire to go there? Because it's temporary. And there's obviously cursing, counter cursing, and all of that stuff. It's not like all Hollywood, all happy and all stuff. There's also problems. They have their ego problems too. They have their fights, demons versus daityas versus devatas, and all of that stuff. It's materialistic. It's just a better grade of materialism, but it's materialistic. We don't want to go there. We want to go directly, cut this universe, cut the barriers, go all the way to spiritual world where Krishna is, not where the devatas are, not where the heavens are. Right. But having said that, one who has done even a little bit of spiritual activity goes there to the heavenly planets, enjoys for extended period of time. Once the karma gets exhausted, then they take birth in the earthly planet, born into a family of righteous people. That means people who are ethical and moral, and or into family of rich aristocracy. So people who are born, does anybody remember how can we identify somebody has good karma from past life? What are the indications that they have good karma from past life?
They
are born. Prabhuji, can I speak?
Yes, please, Mataji.
All the comforts, and specifically, as you told before also, that they are born in a family which is spiritually inclined one, and with maybe the materialistic comforts like beauty.
So the spiritual aspect is coming later. This is like, how do you know somebody has good karma, like good material karma?
All the comforts of the material, like wealth, health, beauty, all these comforts are there, and they are born in such family where the comforts are there, material comforts.
Very nice. So again, the Vedas are very specific. Yes, Vishal, you want to answer also? Go ahead.
Yes, sir. He took a birth as a human first. That is, we can say, if last.
Okay, born as a human being. Okay, the person, yeah.
Yeah, human being in India. He born in India. That is also a good, we can say, sign of good karma. क्योंकि इंडिया में, like प्रभुपादा said, इंडिया में जो born होता है उसका fortune बहुत अच्छा होता है, like. So and likewise, the Mataji said, we can अच्छे family में आपका जन्म हुआ है and all these things.
Okay. So the Vedas are very, very specific. Janma, Aishwarya, Shruta, Shri. Right? Janma, born in a good family of good repute. Aishwarya, wealth, born with golden spoon, silver spoon, we say, right? Shruta, well educated, right? Is inclined, intelligent, has highly evolved mind. And Shri, good looks. So if you see somebody is very good looking, somebody is very intelligent, somebody has wealth, somebody is born in a good family, we shouldn't get envious like, oh, that's privilege. We should know this person has done some very good things in the past life. As a result, they are born. Now, as a result of being born, there is a trap of Maya. Because when you have these things, you get proud, you get intoxicated, and then one falls down and does terrible things and bad karma happens. But in case they're able to take up spirituality, they can make very, very good strides. Like Ambarish Prabhu, he is the Al Ford. He is the grandson of Ford Motor Company's founder, Henry Ford, right? So he has gifted ISKCON with the TOVP, Temple of Vedic Planetarium, that's being built, 1,000 crores temple, and then there's Detroit Temple, so many other dioramas in Los Angeles and Delhi and other places. He has given lots of wealth, and he teaches and preaches Krishna consciousness. And when he speaks, being such a massive wealthy person, others wealthy people listen, and they come in and they also take up, right? So everybody has a place. So we should look at, there's an identification. Oh, past yogi, good opportunity. They might take it up and move forward. They might not, out of arrogance. That's okay. But there is an opportunity here. Somebody's done good karma. Now, there's a difference between good karma and spiritual karma, right? Spiritual is basically something that has nothing to do with this body. Janma, Ashwara, Shrutashri, and all of that. You can be very ugly or very whatever, right? It doesn't matter. Spiritual activity is dealing with the soul. So one who's really advanced, Krishna is saying, the next one. So one who spent extended period of time, after long practice of yoga, he takes birth in the family of transcendentalists or devotees. So somebody who spent a long time in spiritual life, and long, not just time, but also intensified, such a person, so it's an advanced yogi, is born in the family of transcendentalists. That means the family of brahmanas, or family of, not brahmana by birth, who don't follow anything, but brahmanas actually like, priestly class, who are educated in spiritual understanding, or devotees who are practicing Vaishnavas, in such families. That means from birth, there is like constant environment of Krishna consciousness, spiritual development. So naturally they take on to spiritual development very, very easily. My best friend's son on Janmashtami day, somehow his bone got dislocated, and he was immediately taken to the ER, emergency room. And my best friend's wife took a video and shared with me. He's chanting Hare Krishna. He's literally a 2-year-old baby whose arm got dislocated. He's in tremendous pain, and he's just saying Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. He's singing, right? That's what you get, is that environment, and you're already advanced devotee from past life. So you have the affinity for Krishna, and your parents also support that. And as a result, from very early age, they move in that direction. So there's no loss. You're starting from where you left off. I've personally seen many such devotees. It's very clear, 5-6-year-old, and they're giving Bhagavad Gita class and Bhagavatam classes and quoting shlokas. Like, where did that happen? Past life, right? Very clear. They're playing Mridanga, they're in Kirtan. Like, by the time they're 15 years old, they're like Mahabhagavat, personalities. And again, very clear, past life they have started. So that's again a reassurance, for us, that nothing is lost. If we are not able to continue forward, nothing is lost. In fact, Srila Prabhupada always mentioned that, I've never forgotten Krishna throughout my life. Prabhupada's father was also a pure devotee. He was born in a devotional family. From very early age, Prabhupada was pulling the rath. For those of you Bengalis know, in Bengali tradition, we have this small rath, for Jagannath Rath Yatra. We put little Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra, and we pull them. Right. So Prabhupada used to have Rath Yatra, and his mother would make puris and kachoris and feed the entire neighborhood. And then Prabhupada would worship the deities of Radha Govinda, the marble palace, as we know it in Kolkata. So he was from that family, Malik family. So they were worshiping Radha Govinda. And from early childhood, he had the affinity for playing Mridanga and worshiping and preaching. And eventually, when he became a young person, he joined the freedom movement. And he was not so much into the spiritual aspect of things, but somehow one of his friends brought him and wanted to meet Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who later on became a spiritual master. And when Srila Prabhupada met his guru, Prabhupada actually went to that place. Some of you might have seen the video, right? Prabhupada put his head down, and before he could lift his head, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur told him, "You're an intelligent man. You speak English. You should go to the Western world and preach this message of Bhagavad Gita to the Westerners." And Prabhupada was only 22 years old, just recently married. And he was wondering, like, what? Me going to the West? That also preaching Bhagavad Gita to the West? How? What is he saying? He doesn't even know me. But that's, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, another luminary, pure devotee of the Lord. So he could immediately recognize Srila Prabhupada, that this is the man for the job, right? He's going to do it. 50 years later, when Prabhupada was 70 years old, finally he boarded the Jaladuta ship, went to Boston, had no idea left or right what to do. 1 year he struggled, got to New York. Slowly the hippies started coming in, right? So this year, I'm purposely talking about Srila Prabhupada because this is the 125th birth anniversary of Srila Prabhupada. And day after Janmashtami was Srila Prabhupada's Vyasa Puja, celebration of his appearance day. So I'm sharing a little bit about Prabhupada's story for those of you who don't know. Is that okay? Can we diverse a little bit from Bhagavad Gita and talk about Prabhupada? Is that acceptable to everyone?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah?
Yes,
Okay.
Prabhuji.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. So Srila Prabhupada, so he was a married man. He had a very good business in India, in a pharmacy business. Even I've heard Nehru used to take medicines from Srila Prabhupada. He used to drive a Buick, which is a very expensive car. Prabhupada was very good. And he was also a speaker and a preacher and a Vaishnav. Eventually, this thought of his spiritual master telling him that you should go to the West and preach, this Bhagavad Gita was something that kept on bothering him, that why am I not able to do it? When will I do it? When will the right time come? And eventually, Srila Prabhupada, his business failed. His wife, actually, so Prabhupada had written this Bhagavad Gita as it is. He had written it once already in manuscript format. His wife sold that. So those of you know, you can actually sell paper and you get some money on. So his wife actually sold the first manuscript of Bhagavad Gita translated by Srila Prabhupada just to buy tea. She wanted some money for buying tea. And I mean, it's not like they didn't have money. So Prabhupada told her, like, what did you do? She's like, I sold that. I didn't know what it was. I just sold it. And with that money, I bought some tea. And Prabhupada said, I keep telling you, don't drink tea. I feel horrible right now because I just came from cutting a ribbon at a place where they opened a tea store. Anyway, so that's my professional commitment as Kolkata Ventures. But anyway, so Prabhupada said, tea or me? And his wife said, tea. So Prabhupada said, fine, then I leave. And Prabhupada left home. And his wife was like, oh, he's going to come back. But Prabhupada never came back. Eventually, Prabhupada's business also failed. And Prabhupada's factory got robbed. And when his son came and told him, Prabhupada laughed. And he quoted a Bhagavatam verse, which basically means like, when Hari gives you special mercy, he takes away everything from you. Right? So Prabhupada laughed. And it's like, okay, time has come. So special mercy has come. So he didn't even go and complain to the police or whatever. It's like, okay, that life is over. Now his children were also grown up. His wife was supported by the children. And Prabhupada was like, I should move on. And eventually Prabhupada was told by his godbrothers, you should take sannyas. You should take sannyas. You're a great preacher. You should take sannyas. People will respect you more and you can do more as a sannyasi. Prabhupada said, I'm not sure I'm qualified. I'm not sure I'm qualified. And eventually Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur, his guru, came in his dream and he said, you should take sannyas, go to the West. Already people are born who are going to spread this movement forward. All you got to do is just go. People are waiting for you to receive this message and spread this movement. You're selected. You should go. Prabhupada saw the dream and he was like, not sure. Again, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur came. Again, Prabhupada was told, please take sannyas. You should do this. And now this time Prabhupada was, in a very bad financial situation where he was done with his business and anything. He had nothing for himself. This is a struggling period where Prabhupada was translating Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Canto 2. He would stay in this Vrindavan temple called Radha Damodar. Many of you might have visited there. So Radha Damodar temple on the, he had a room for himself. There's a room still there. If you ever go there, you should check it out. Prabhupada stayed there. He would write and translate the Bhagavatam verses based on the Guru Shishya Parampara, the previous acharyas, what they've written. He would translate to English, and then he would take it to Delhi. And in Delhi, he would go from tea stall. Again, I don't know why I'm talking about tea today so much, but he would go from tea stall to tea stall, selling his Bhagavatam books, literally like a beggar. Like, please buy this book. And people would be like, oh, mythology. Hindu stuff is also old. We are out to Western things, the Britishers are so much better. They're so much more civilized. We are all uncivilized. Everything we know is bad. Everything we know is shitty. Oh, sorry, not interested in your books. And Srila Prabhupada, would go around. And one person one day said, I'll give you 10 rupees, 5 rupees. Sorry, I'll give you 5 rupees. Just meet me at so-and-so place. It was a summer day. And Prabhupada came in to meet this rich man. And that man never came. He waited for 2 hours. there was somebody going who knew Srila Prabhupada going on a rickshaw and said, Prabhupada, get on the rickshaw. He said, no, somebody is waiting here because he's going to pay me 5 rupees for a book printing. I need the money. He said, I'll give you 10 rupees, Prabhupada. You get on the rickshaw. Like, very good. You give me the 10 rupees, but I'll also wait for that 5 rupees. Right? And when the rickshaw, this man went and came back, Prabhupada was still waiting. And he said, Swamiji, please get on the rickshaw. And like that, sometimes Prabhupada was found just having heat stroke and lying on the road, fainted, just out of heat stroke, because he's old and he's trying to write these books. He didn't even have money to actually like print and do the book binding. So he would go to the printer and beg them, please give me, charge me less. I will do the binding myself. So he would buy the paper from Chipawara in Delhi, go to this printing press, do the printing himself, bind the books, go to the tea stalls, try to sell the books, get rejected, get ridiculed, get laughed at, try to raise some funds from people, again go to Vrindavan, again translate these books, again go to Delhi, try to sell. This was Prabhupada's life till somebody, Mr. Agarwal, came to Prabhupada, met him and said, oh, my son lives in America. He's in Pennsylvania. And Prabhupada said, oh, really? Will he please make the arrangements for me to go to America? And this man said, like, what kind of a person is he? He's asking for advantage, This is not nice. Prabhupada said, no, please, I beg you. My guru had told me 50 years ago, I'm still waiting. I need to go to the West. People need to know about this knowledge. So Mr. Agarwal was told many times. So he actually told his son, and his son arranged the P form and other things at that time, whatever was needed for visa. So Prabhupada got his visa and his P form. Now he needed some way to get to America, and he didn't have any money for flight, obviously. So there was the India Shipping Company. And this lady, she was running the India Shipping Company, very, very educated woman, very old woman. And she was told Swamiji, first of all, she didn't want to meet Prabhupada. Prabhupada went to her office and she didn't want to meet him. Like, no, I don't want to meet any sannyasi and all that. So Prabhupada waited at the foot of the door. There was a staircase. He waited at the staircase from morning till evening, waiting for her to leave office. Then he will catch her. Prabhupada eat just banana and just wait all day. And then when Srimati Morarji was leaving, Prabhupada said, you need to help me. In one of your ships, I need a free passage to America. She said, Swamiji, you will die. America is cold. You don't know anything about America. Don't do this. Prabhupada said, doesn't matter if I die. My guru has given me this instruction. I have to do it. And then finally she said, okay, you read to me Bhagavatam. I want to learn about Bhagavatam, and then I'll think about it. Prabhupada would go and teach her Bhagavatam, once a week or something like that. And finally she said, you're very sincere. I get it. Your guru, told you, but you will die, Swamiji, if you go. It's like, it doesn't matter. Please let me go. Give me a free passage. Finally, Srimati Morarji gave him a free passage. And Prabhupada, boarded the Jaladuta ship. The ship was called Jaladuta from Calcutta. Prabhupada had nothing. So Prabhupada went to Advaita Acharya's place. That's where Advaita Acharya prayed to a Shalagram Shila that, my dear Krishna, please come to planet Earth. And Lord Chaitanya was born, right? So that's where Prabhupada went first, prayed to Advaita Acharya that, please give me your mercy, that I can spread this message to the West. And the Pujari of that place still remembered, later on, that Pujari actually told Prabhupada, I see you coming here often and crying. What is it? What is your problem? He said, my guru has told me to go to the West. Tomorrow, I'm getting on this ship and going to the West. I'm an old man. I have no idea if I'm going to come back, if I'm going to be successful. Please bless me that somehow or other I can share this message to the Western world. And that man said, whatever I have, I'm blessing you, that may you be successful. So Srila Prabhupada came to Calcutta. He got on the Jaladuta ship, and his son came up. Only one son was supportive. Other sons didn't support him so much. And Prabhupada had 70 rupees in his pocket. Prabhupada gave that 70 rupees to his son. He said, across the Atlantic, this money won't be meant anything. As a father, I have not given you much. So this is all I have. I'm giving this to you. And Srila Prabhupada had a bag of Bhagavatam books and a bag of cereal. And somehow Prabhupada, the ship started and started going, and there were turbulence in the ocean. Prabhupada had 2 heart attacks, one after another. Third one, and he would be dead. somehow Prabhupada saw in his vision, which he later on told us, that Krishna came. And Krishna actually put his hand on his chest and said, don't worry. All you got to do is get there. People are waiting for you, right? And Prabhupada saw this dream that the Das Avatar was actually taking that boat forward. So he felt that I'm protected. I won't die. I will be able to make it. He ended up in Boston. He had no idea where to go in Pennsylvania. He had the address, but how to get there? He didn't have money. He was a sannyasi. His English was broken. Somehow or other, he got on a bus to Pennsylvania. And he got there. And thankfully, there was this lady, wife of Mr. Agarwal, who was waiting there. She was American. Prabhupada was accepted. Now, I'm not getting in the details. Long story short, Prabhupada realized this was Butler, Pennsylvania, where no one is like, there's literally like nobody there. So it's very not conducive for preaching. So it's like middle of nowhere. So he's like, I have to go to New York. So somehow he made it to New York. And in New York, he found a Yogi Baba who was impersonalist, who gave him a kind of a box-like place to stay, which didn't have any bathroom, didn't have doors or window, didn't have windows or anything, just basically a room where he could just stay. So every day he would walk 4 blocks to go to the Yogi Baba's place, use the washroom. And the deal was he can stay there as long as he's cooking for the Yogi Baba and all the students. So Srila Prabhupada would be like a chef, cooking for this yogi person and cooking for all the yoga practitioners who would come. And the Yogi Baba says, you're a Vaishnava, you speak all these Krishna Katha, that's not what I want you to talk about. Do not open your mouth. You can only do Kirtan. You can chant Hare Krishna Kirtan, that's it, no philosophy. Prabhupada said, fine. So like that, 1 year was passing and Prabhupada somehow found a place to live. He was chanting Hare Krishna and he was learning about people, right? How these people do things, what are their belief system, man-woman equality, blah, blah, blah. He was learning how these people are. So eventually some of these yoga students, like, Swamiji, you never speak. It's like, I'm not allowed to speak. So they ended up Prabhupada's room and they would come and be like, you live in this kind of a place? And finally, these guys, they were inspired. Now they were asking questions to Prabhupada. Prabhupada would answer them from Bhagavad Gita. And the Yogi Baba said, okay, you started opening your mouth. Now you shouldn't be here. And then finally Prabhupada, started living with the hippies. And it was horrible. These guys were drug addicted. One of them wanted to kill Prabhupada, actually, with a knife, tried to run after Prabhupada. Prabhupada to run, for his life and somehow other, live with another guy. So he was really like a homeless person, such a great person, living like a homeless person, running from this place to another place, dealing with hippies and druggies at the worst part of New York called Lower East Side. Horrible. Eventually, some of the devotees Srila Prabhupada was nurturing, preaching to, they came forward and they said, okay, Prabhupada, let's create a place for you where you can preach and live. So this place in New York called 26 2nd Avenue. Thankfully, I've been there. It's actually a smaller place than where I'm sitting right now. Very tiny place. It's a storefront. And it was called Matchless Gifts. Prabhupada said, don't remove that sign. This is a perfect place. Because what Prabhupada is here to give is matchless gifts to the Western world. So in that matchless gifts room, there was a storefront and behind that there was a room. So Prabhupada stayed in the behind room and in the storefront, Prabhupada was preaching. So, people would just walk by and see Lord Chaitanya's thing and like Bhagavad Gita and yoga stuff, and people started coming in. And slowly, again, cutting my story short, slowly, people started coming in. Sunday feast started, and many hippies were coming. And then New York was thriving, right? Beautiful devotees, slowly they were growing. And Srila Prabhupada finally incorporated the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And there were only like 5 people, one of them being the owner of the 26 2nd Avenue place. And they laughed. There's like, there's 5 of us who are trustees. We have one storefront that is like 10 feet by 6 feet. International Society, can we just say New York Society for Krishna Consciousness? Prabhupada said, no, International Society for Krishna Consciousness. This movement will be in every town and village because Lord Nityananda said so. That Prithivite Ashijato Nagaradi Gram Sharbatra Prachar Hoibe Morna. That in every town and village of this world, the holy name of Lord Krishna will be propagated. So Prabhupada said, this is International Society of Krishna Consciousness. ISKCON was born. Nobody knew what Prabhupada was envisioning, right? And then slowly, Prabhupada didn't have a Bhagavad Gita also, right? Because his wife had. So Prabhupada had a typewriter. So he was typing the Bhagavad Gita and trying to bring his own manuscript. In the meantime, he was using Macmillan's Bhagavad Gita that was there. Sorry, not the Macmillan. There was some other Bhagavad Gita. I think it was somebody else's. So Prabhupada was using that, but he was typing it. One day, Prabhupada's typewriter also got stolen. His everything he had, little bit typewriter and some other things he had, those were also stolen. Prabhupada was like, okay, what do I do now? So one after another, there was no encouragement here. It was like super test. Prabhupada is to go and see if he should go back to America. He look for ships that are going back to India. And he would think, should I go? And he would go back to the ticket counter to buy, and he would come back. No. Let me push a little harder. Let me push a little harder. And slowly, New York, hippies, and then somebody who was from New York went to San Francisco. And this devotee started the San Francisco Center and invited Prabhupada. Prabhupada, please come. This is the hippie capital, is San Francisco. You need to be here. People are already vegetarian. They want to know about yoga, meditation, and you need to come. Prabhupada went to San Francisco, and guess what? There was the local hippies who are well connected with the rock and roll stars, right? These were also hippies, and they were like new age spiritualists who are absolutely intoxicated on LSD. LSD is it's a drug. Back in those days, it was very popular. And they loved the chanting of Hare Krishna. And Allen Ginsberg, who was extremely popular with the hippies, he was chanting Hare Krishna on a harmonium. Somehow Krishna made the arrangement, and he was a complete drugged up hippie. But he had a great respect for Prabhupada. And because of Allen Ginsberg, he brought Prabhupada to the most popular gatherings for the rock and roll festivals. And Prabhupada would, get with all his devotees, all wearing bed sheets. That time they didn't have dhotis and all, right? So they would wear bed sheets as dhotis. And the women would also wear bed sheets as like saris, and they would chant Hare Krishna, and the whole audience drugged up, they would chant Hare Krishna, and they would have flyers that says stay high forever. It's like, yes, this is great. Drugs, there's a low, but Hare Krishna chanting, stay high forever. Very nice, very nice. San Francisco Rath Yatra happened. Massive Rath, as big as Jagannath Puri. There's this wonderful devotee named Jayananda Prabhu, one of my heroes. He was a mechanical engineer, and he built these massive chariots. And if those of you have been to San Francisco, the roads are, they're like mountains, they're uphill, downhill. It's not plain like Chicago or New York. It's like uphill, downhill. So the Rath broke in the middle of Rath Yatra, right? It's going down, all kinds of things happen. It's like children trying to make a 5,000-year-old movement happen with the help of a elderly grandfather, Srila Prabhupada. It was a mess. It was a chaos, but it was beautiful because tens of thousands of people were just attracted like magnet to the Krishna consciousness movement. And then finally, the third Hare Krishna temple happened in Canada. Can anybody help me? What's the Canada temple? Montreal. I think it was Montreal, right? And there, now Prabhupada had some initiations also done, some initiated devotees, brand new, of course, 1 year, 2 years old devotees. And Prabhupada trained them. He said, look, I'm going to train you how to preach, how to cook, how to chant, and you guys need to go to London. I need to establish the London temple, because my Guru Maharaj really wanted the Britishers who have taken over India, those guys should become devotees. And we failed 3 attempts he made with his disciples. They failed multiple times, but you guys go and you become successful. So in Montreal for almost 2 to 3 weeks, Srila Prabhupada trained up these 3 couples, right? I have shared this story before. I won't get into the details because we don't have too much time. But the point is, these 3 couples who had only $1,000 all together, and at that time to go to England, you need to show $1,000 to get a visa. So one couple went with $1,000, showed that, send the $1,000 back. Another couple went, $1,000 is showed, send the money back. And like that, 3 couples came. And finally, the $1,000, all they had, they got a place to rent. And they were going around chanting Hare Krishna on the streets, distributing books, and nobody was showing any interest. And they were like, what do we do? And then finally the Mataji started cooking apple pie, and they went to the Apple Records where George Harrison and the other Beatles were very, very hot during, they're the Justin Biebers of the time, right? Very popular in that period. And the Beatles, they were offering, they would just leave the cakes there and offer to Krishna, prasadam cakes. And finally, after 3-4 months of trying, $1,000 over, the devotees were bankrupt. They had money due for the rent and everything. And they're like, there's no way we can do this. Sorry, we have to come back, it seems. So Mother Malati and her husband and Mother Yamuna, and they were like, all like, what do we do? Krishna, please help. And one day as we were walking down the street, right, money started falling from the skies. It's not a joke. You can still talk to them, but they're, one of them is still alive. Mother Malati is still alive. She's at GBC of Detroit. And money just started falling from the sky. And somebody was throwing money, I guess, somewhere, and they captured the money, and that was just enough money to pay the rent. And they're like, oh, we got more money to maybe extend another month. They again made apple pie with that extra money, went to the Apple studios, and there, as soon as the devotees came, Shamsundar Prabhu came, they said, hold on one second, somebody's looking for you. Please wait inside. So they were now finally allowed to come inside. Shamsundar Prabhu was very excited, like, who wants to meet me? Comes down George Harrison. George Harrison was, one of the Beatles, and George Harrison was instantly, they gelled friendship. And George Harrison said, I've been waiting for you guys. I love your apple pies. I love your chanting. We need to make a record, the Hare Krishna temple. And immediately the devotees were like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. The Beatles are going to record Hare Krishna. And George Harrison personally was the music director. He funded the recordings, and they made a whole splash, devotees chanting Hare Krishna. You can still go on YouTube and find Hare Krishna temple. And that's those are the recordings. And they were chart busters. This Krishna's mercy, right? Hare Krishna explosion happened in Europe because the music went crazy. Right, it was number 4 in Czechoslovakia. It was number 1 in UK. I think it was, multiple countries in Europe. It was top chart busters as far as music album is concerned. And Apple Records really made a lot of money selling these charts. And finally, Prabhupada was sent a copy. Prabhupada, please listen. Prabhupada said, this is Transcendental Orchestra or something like that, he said. Finally, Prabhupada was invited. And George Harrison actually made arrangements. He funded the temple. Radha Landaneshwar were installed. If you go to London, definitely meet them. They're the most attractive Radha Krishna deities you can imagine. Oh my God. That is also a miracle story that I'll tell you another day, how Radha Landaneshwar came to Prabhupada. They were actually in London waiting for Prabhupada. Some other person had it. So the Indian group actually brought the Radhakrishna deities, but somehow they were not able to install, and Prabhupada took them and installed them and named them Radha Landaneshwar. And then eventually George Harrison gave his own house also, which many of you might have seen on my Facebook when I went there, Bhaktivedanta Manor, we call it, right? Beautiful place. And there's Radha Gokulananda, Ram Lakshman Sita Hanuman. So amazing. So London happened. Then Srila Prabhupada was like, okay, now Hare Krishna movement was growing on its own with, Prabhupada's disciples spreading the movement far and wide. And then Prabhupada started traveling, right? So book distribution was key. Bhagavad Gita and Back to Godhead magazines and Srimad Bhagavatam, one after another. Prabhupada, this was Prabhupada's schedule. This is going to blow your mind. Prabhupada. Okay, so I'll start from the night before so you understand. At 8 o'clock, Prabhupada would go to bed, take rest. At 10 o'clock, lights would turn on in his room, sorry. And then he would go to the washroom and then come back, and then he would turn on his dictaphone and he would record verse. So he would have 3 books, right? That previous acharyas books in Sanskrit and translations in Bengali and other things. And he would read those books line by line, translate line by line on the dictaphone, right? He would again read the Sanskrit, read the previous acharyas purports, and then synthesize it in his mind, chant Hare Krishna, right? With the holy name, he would pray for Krishna's mercy and then translate, one line at a time. That's how, copiously Srila Prabhupada wrote these purports, right? It's not a joke. And slowly he was translating. So from 10 o'clock at night to 4 o'clock in the morning, Prabhupada would be translating books How many hours did he sleep? 2 hours, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. And all night he'll be translating books. 4 o'clock Mangalarti, then japa, chanting 16 rounds. By the time it's 6:30 or so, he would go for morning walks, come back. Morning walk also he'll be preaching, using all examples of trees and birds and ocean, wherever he was. To all his disciples, he would be talking about with different analogies and bringing Krishna conscious vantage point. If you want, you can just search on YouTube Prabhupada morning walks and you'll hear this morning walk recordings. Amazing, right? Very heavy recordings, but amazing. And then he would come back, he would meet the dignitaries, offer his obeisance to the Lord, and all the official management of spreading Krishna consciousness worldwide. Those meetings would happen. Then he would have breakfast, take a little rest. Again, he would be, doing his sadhana and everything else. And like that throughout the day, lunch, and then again, half an hour rest, again, meeting people, again, planning which countries to expand Hare Krishna movement to, right? He would look at a globe and be like, this country, somebody go here, like that. He was spreading it. And he, in the 14 years, the last 14 years of his life, sorry, not 14 years, it was 11 years of his life, Srila Prabhupada went around the globe 14 times, right? Spreading the Krishna consciousness movement, initiating 10,000 disciples, translating 70 plus books from Sanskrit to English, establishing 108 temples around the world, and colleges and schools, gurukuls. And his biggest projects were in Mayapur, Vrindavan, and Bombay, right? So those were the main big temples in India that came from Western funding, right? And right, thank you, Vishal. While he was doing that, devotees would write to him letters, and he would respond to all those letters also very, very promptly. And while doing this, he had a minor heart attack one night, right, where Prabhupada's ex-secretary came and tried to help him and resuscitate him. And Prabhupada said, do this, do that. Because he was a pharmacist, he knew medicines. So he took care of that. Next morning, Prabhupada, said, don't tell anyone. I will continue as it is. And he would continue as it is, like nothing happened. Like that, he kept on going around, in some places. Now, as the Hare Krishna movement was growing, people were receiving him in Mercedes cars and Rolls Royce. And then he would go to Mayapur and they would receive a bullock cart, right? Mayapur was a complete forest, village. And he was totally fine being in a mud hut, mosquitoes biting. And he was totally fine being in George Harrison's house in London, where there's literally like a palace, right? So that's the beauty of a pure devotee of the Lord, that it doesn't matter externally where you are, where Krishna keeps you. You make the most of your time and energy and resources in serving the Supreme Lord and spreading his glories. And Prabhupada had only one mission. How do I spread Krishna consciousness? How do I make people aware of Krishna? How do I make the best of the people, the professors, the politicians? He would meet these people. He would go to universities and give lectures and constantly try to convince them the relevance of Krishna consciousness, when people were like, oh, India, it's a poverty-stricken country. Oh, India, it's a poor country. This is where India was really poor, right? India lost the war with China. India was nothing. And here was Prabhupada. One reporter in UK asked, Swamiji, why have you come to the West? Why have you come to Britain? We have everything. We don't need anything from you. Why have you come here? And Prabhupada's answer was, well, you have everything because you've stolen everything from India. There's one thing you forgot to steal, is our spirituality. So I came here all the way at this old age to give you what you forgot to take from us. So you take the spiritual consciousness and you become spiritually wealthy also, right? So that's the beauty. So Prabhupada never, one time in Australia, one reporter reached out to Prabhupada and said, oh, Swamiji, aren't you supposed to be a renunciate, a sannyasi? Why have they come to receive you in a Mercedes limousine? Prabhupada said, what is that? He didn't even know what it was. He's like, what is that? He asked one of his disciples. They said, it's a very long car, Prabhupada. We brought the best car we could for you. Prabhupada said, oh, okay, it's a car. Okay. So he told the reporter, oh, it's just a car. I'm representing Krishna. I'm a guru, right? According to Vedic system, you should be, accepting me in a golden chariot. What's a car? It's just metal, some rubber, some leather. It's nothing. So the reporter was like, see, he was never apologetic about being who he was, about being the founder Acharya, about being the leader of the Hare Krishna movement, and he carried himself that way. Same person was cooking for a Brahmavadi, impersonalist, living like a homeless person, the same person as a founder Acharya, spreading the movement, meeting with world leaders, presidents, prime ministers, even Indira Gandhi, asking her, you should give visa to all these American boys, because India was like, at that time, India was more friends with Russia, not so much with America. And Indira Gandhi was scared that these are American spies. And she said, why would these Americans want to become Hare Krishna, wear dhoti, shave off their head, and be, Indian religion, take Hinduism? Prabhupada said, because they're actually, from past lives, they're associates of the Lord. They're born to spread this movement far and wide. In fact, about Jayapataka Maharaj, one MP asked, why does this boy want to become an Indian citizen? He's from a rich family, he's American. He said, because he was an associate of Lord Chaitanya himself. That's the glory of Jayapataka Maharaj, right? He was actually associate of Lord Chaitanya. Wow. So Prabhupada said he was an associate of Lord Chaitanya. So his heart is here. He has come to India. And Prabhupada's goal was that when he was going to these tea stalls, right, trying to sell these books, Back to Godhead magazines, Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, people were rejecting him. Western civilization, they're the best. Indian, everything is bad. That's when Prabhupada realized that I need to bring those Westerners to India, make them Vaishnavas first. Seeing them, Indians would become Vaishnavas. Honestly, that's what happened to me. When I went to ISKCON Chicago for the first time, and I saw these white people, black people, Hispanics, they're dancing and chanting Hare Krishna with tilak on their head and shaved head, shikha on their back. No, I was like, what is going on? I'm born in a Brahmin family, in a Hindu family. I don't chant. I don't know any mantras. I've never read the Bhagavad Gita. These are Westerners. They're fluently speaking Bhagavad Gita. They're having dramas of Nrsingadev. They're worshipping the Radha Krishna deities. Shock, right? Complete shock. And it was actually effective. So when Prabhupada brought these Westerners to India, got them visa, and Indira Gandhi approved it. Now, there was a big debate in the parliament. These are all Hare Krishnas, are all the American spies. Even at that time in the movies, there was a movie, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, Dhammaro Dham. That was because of actually Srila Prabhupada bringing these. So they portrayed these Hare Krishnas as druggies, which was not the case. They were druggies who were transformed and given up all that to become Krishna's devotee. So Prabhupada was very happy when he heard, they have made a movie with Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So one devotee went to see the movie and they found out, oh my God, they're portraying us as people who take ganja and all that. Prabhupada was like, you know what? Anyway, they're chanting Hare Krishna. They're chanting Krishna's holy name. So at least that is some benefit, even if they portray us in the wrong light. So a lot of struggles. Many people tried to break ISKCON, take it away from Srila Prabhupada when he was successful. Because initially he asked his god brothers to help him in Gauriya Math, to help him to build temples in US, and nobody said. It's like, you're crazy. You think Americans would take to Krishna consciousness? Never going to happen. You're dreaming. It's a waste of time and money. Swamiji, come back and die in Vrindavan. Prabhupada said, they won't help me. These hippies will only help me. So with their help only, I'll build this. And he was successful. So Prabhupada, when he passed away in 1977, 1965, he reached America. 1977, he passed this world. He went with zero money, as you heard, right? There was, at the end, there were $400 million worth of temples all over the world. I talk about startups starting with zero money, right? It's inspired by Srila Prabhupada, actually, because he started with zero money, literally like a beggar. But Krishna supported him, tested him, supported him, and slowly people started coming. People who in their past lives were these wonderful devotees that we are reading about. And these personalities took it on themselves, risked their lives. There were devotees who went to China. Today, China has one of the largest devotee congregation outside India and Russia. And at that time, Tamal Krishna Maharaj went to China, and this is how he was spreading Krishna consciousness. He would go to a place, talk about Krishna consciousnness, bring people together, and within 10 minutes, the police would arrive. So he would finish off in 7-8 minutes and run. Literally, if they found you, they could burn you alive. They could put you in prison forever. That's how these devotees risked their life. One devotee, Brahmananda Prabhu, went to Pakistan. They were spitting on him. They were taking away his tilak. They were throwing his books, but they went to Pakistan to even preach, right? So like that, these devotees were risking their lives for Prabhupada. And if you read Prabhupada's, memories, there's a series on YouTube called Prabhupada Memories. These persons were not paid. They were not getting anything material. They were literally from, whatever families, it didn't matter. They were just dedicated to Srila Prabhupada like mad. And all they knew was, we have to spread this Krishna consciousness movement far and wide. Everybody needs to know Krishna exists, and that there is such a beautiful process of bhakti that's accessible to them. Whether they take it or not, up to them. But every airport, devotees were there distributing books. In fact, it was most movies during the 70s would make jokes about the Hare Krishnas, because they were always there at the airport giving prasadam flowers, giving prasadam, giving books, and trying to sell these books. They were everywhere. They're part of pop culture. Within literally every household talked about the Hare Krishnas. And then guess what? Prabhupada left the planet, and these were all kids in their early 20s. And now suddenly it's like, what do you do? Prabhupada was a 70-year-old Acharya, the great personality who would do everything. And these kids, they were like, we have no clue what to do. So there was a lot of riffraff that happened within ISKCON. In the 80s, in the 90s, struggling period, the Hare Krishna movement practically died. But those who stayed, like my spiritual master and some others, those who stayed with the movement through the struggles, they worked really hard to make that boom. And today we are at this point where the Prime Minister of India is opening, launching a quad to commemorate Srila Prabhupada's 125 years. Where the Prime Minister is opening books. The Prime Minister of UK is glorifying Srila Prabhupada's and the ISKCON movement. The Queen Elizabeth appreciating Shikshashtakam verses by Lord Chaitanya and saying our children should learn Shikshashtakam so that they can also become Vaishnava-like, have the Vaishnava qualities, right? So Barack Obama, so you name it, all the world's top leaders, Harvard, to celebrate 50 years of ISKCON, that was a few years back, the Harvard Divinity School actually did a week-long symposium of studying of Vaishnava, the contribution of Vaishnava literatures in the world religion and their contribution to the world. The yoga that we see today being such a brand, the Ayurvedic treatments, the philosophy of karma and reincarnation today in America or anywhere in the world, 70% of the people believe in reincarnation, which was not even a concept. All has been a direct influence of Vaishnavism, of Krishna consciousness, and of course, Srila Prabhupada. So that is our Srila Prabhupada, that we should be very, very proud of him. We should be very proud that we have such lineage. He's our grandfather, right? He's our Shiksha Guru. We are learning from Srila Prabhupada's words, who is a pure devotee of Krishna. And this is the miracle, right? Krishna through Srila Prabhupada. In fact, how pure is Srila Prabhupada? In Garga Puran, it is mentioned about Srila Prabhupada that there will be somebody in Kali Yuga who would come at the ripe old age. He would go to the Western world and spread the Hare Krishna movement all over the world. His own guru, after failing 3 times, sending his disciples to the West, in public place, mentioned that we have failed 3 times. We sent our disciples. And he looked at Srila Prabhupada and said, my next disciple, when he goes to the West, he will not come back empty-handed. He will bring the whole world with him. Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's father, great grand spiritual master of all of us. Bhakti Vinod Thakur also said the same thing. When he, today Mayapur temple that you see in Navadvip, the Vedic planetarium, he had actually seen the vision of it. And when he saw the vision of the Mayapur Vedic planetarium, he saw people of all races, blacks, whites, Chinese, Indians, Russians, dancing and chanting together Krishna's holy name. He envisioned that. And he said, it will happen. On his deathbed, he told his wife, tell my son, this is my last wish, that somehow or other, this message should reach the West. The Westerners should come to Mayapur and make this, Krishna consciousness movement a worldwide movement. So for generations, the effort has been there. Lord Chaitanya made the declaration and devotees have been trying, and Srila Prabhupada was the person who actually succeeded in making it happen. It's nothing less than a miracle. If you look at the lifestyle of Westerners, eating beef to, the very ingrained culture of alcoholism and everything else is completely opposite to the Vedic culture. Yet Srila Prabhupada's purity was such that they were able to completely give up all that, transform young boys and girls, hippies, right? In fact, once Srila Prabhupada was invited to a place where it was a hippie kind of place where they were all staying there and they all were naked, right? It was a nudist farm, right? Srila Prabhupada gave a lecture in the middle of that. And some of them wanted to join Srila Prabhupada movement, and Prabhupada actually told them, you have to wear some clothes, but that's it. That's all you need. Just come on board. And they got hopped onto the van and they joined the Hare Krishna movement in the temple. So Prabhupada never made a discrimination that man, woman, sexual orientation, black, white, nudist, drug addicted, alcohol addicted, no discrimination. It's like Lord Chaitanya is very powerful. Krishna's mercy is more powerful than the sins that people can do in this world. It can overcome anything. Literally, like you just look at people, like one person was like, I can never give up drugs. I don't know how Prabhupada, I'll join Prabhupada's movement. As he was thinking like that, Srila Prabhupada just looked at him and said, this LSD, we should give it up. And that word has such power that devotee, that moment, he felt empowered. He's like, I'll never take drugs again. And he never took drugs again. Literally, over and out. Lindsay Lohan goes to rehab, pays millions of dollars and still cannot get out of drugs, right? We know how hard it is, but Prabhupada would just say it and people would be able to give it up, right? Smoking, drinking, all these things, no problem. That's the purity that Srila Prabhupada possessed, and that purity is there with us. Prabhupada's words are there with us. And I pray and hope that all of us get empowered and inspired by Srila Prabhupada, and we remember his sacrifices, the sleepless nights he spent, so that we can do our little part of what he started and move this forward. Srila Prabhupada started with 108 temples. Today we have close to 700 temples around the world. Prabhupada started with 10,000 disciples. Today we have literally millions of devotees around the world. Prabhupada translated 70 books. Today we have those books in multiple languages, in more than 50 languages, and there are half a billion of these books in circulations around the world. So Prabhupada started the movement. Prabhupada's disciples have been moving it forward, and today those disciples are dying. They're leaving the planet. So it's on us, the third generation, to take it to the next level. And out of gratitude of Srila Prabhupada's efforts for the next 10,000 years of Kali Yuga, which is supposed to be the golden period, right? That we need to keep this movement alive and growing, so that at least sincere people have access to this. And if they choose, Krishna will help them, right? That's all it is. If somebody chooses, yes, I want to know what the Hare Krishna movement is, I want to know what it's like, Krishna will help them. Then it's between Krishna and them, and we are just a little instrument in Krishna's hand, preaching, sharing, giving prasadam, whatever else. That's just an instrument. But Krishna is actually doing the work, and it's between Krishna's heart and the devotee's heart, and we are in the middle. So we should do our little part. First, become perfect, and then help everyone become perfect their lives in Krishna consciousness. Thank you very much. Sorry, I took a little extra time. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Hare Krishna, everyone. Have a good night.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.